thank you, Mr. SOBCZAK, for this outstanding performance. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please rise and welcome the President of the Republic of North Macedonia, Mr. Stevo PENDAROVSKI. Good morning, Mr. President, Master, North Macedonian delegation. Good morning, Madam Vice-Rector. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I will ask you to stand up for the European anthem under the supervision of the director, Katarzyna Boniecka, the Natolin choir. Please, the floor is yours.
The Natolin choir. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Dear President Pendarovsky, dear Rector Mogherini, dear guests, professors, dear colleagues, dear viewers who are with us online, and you, dear students of the David Sassoli promotion. It is my privilege and pleasure to welcome all of you at the opening of the academic year 2022-23. We are honored today by the presence of the President of North Macedonia. Mr. President was so kind to come here to Natolin to deliver an opening speech. We are very grateful for accepting our invitation. We will start our ceremony with a special address by Director of the College of Europe, Federica Mogherini. Dear Federica, the stage at Natolin is yours. Yes, you are here.
Thank you very much, dear Eva, Mr. President, dear students, colleagues in the Natolin campus. I'm very happy to share with you this special day, this very special day. Sorry that I was not in time to fly to Natolin after our opening yesterday in Bruges with the President of the European Parliament, Roberta Metsola. But I think it is extremely strong and symbolic that the two campuses, our two campuses in Bruges and in Natolin, have their opening ceremonies one day after the other, and with such relevant personalities addressing our student body. I will just say a few words to first and foremost to congratulate all of you, the students that made through a difficult selection in the admission process. It's going to be an exciting and I think rewarding year. I'm very much looking forward to meeting all of you very soon in one of my next visits in Natolin. This is a special promotion, to me at least, because our patron de promotion, David Sassoli, not only was someone I knew very well and somehow a friend for me, but also because his words and his actions, the entire life of David Sassoli has been dedicated to Europe and to a certain vision of Europe. He was, as you see from the photo that will accompany your entire promotion and possibly your entire life, he was a very open and smiling person, always welcoming, always listening, always understanding every person he met without any distinction. But also he was a man of strong principles, never compromising on values, and in particular the values that he felt are at the center of our European integration process. Democracy, human rights and rule of law, solidarity were for him the foundations of his being European and his being a man. And he dedicated his whole life in the institutions, but before that in journalism and in all his activities to these values. And as he was smiling and nice, gentle, he was also very, very straightforward, very severe, I would say, on non-compromising on values. And I hope and I think that this characteristic can accompany each and every of you in your life at the college, but even more importantly after that, in your professional and private life. Having him as patron de promotion, I hope and I'm sure will help you being good individuals and good Europeans, contributing to the well-being of your community around you, starting from your community of the college in Natolin, starting also with excellent links that I know you have already started to establish with the students that are sharing your same promotion here in Bruges. I know that there are connections. We are very much looking forward to the cross-campus exchange that we will organize later during the academic year. And let me stress how relevant and important it is for all of us to make sure that our two campuses interact and that you have opportunities to meet your fellow students that are here in Bruges, and also that we create this sense of being one family, one community. I am myself very much looking forward to meeting you, as I said, in person in Natolin, but also online, individually, anytime you want. It is going to be a pleasure for me to share this promotion with you. Let me conclude by saying how honored I feel to be with you today, and how much I share the honor that the Vice-Rector was expressing for our keynote speaker of today. Mr. President, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you addressing us at this opening ceremony. I would like also to thank you personally for having accepted our invitation, and I'm very much looking forward to listening to your address. I also wish you and your country all the best, as I keep always very good memories of working together with the institutions and the people of North Macedonia, a wonderful country. Thank you very much for having hosted me. Again, in this virtual manner, but I'm very much looking forward to the rest of the opening ceremony, and even more so, looking forward to meeting all of you in person very soon in Natolin or in Bruges. Thank you very much. And let me conclude with the words that David Sassoli addressed to our students of the Soares promotion 1.5 years ago. He said during an exchange with the students and faculty, a conference on the future of Europe, he said to our students, don't be elite, be leaders. And I would like you to follow this advice. Take your responsibilities, exercise your power. If you have it, if you realize you have it, then you use it. And feel always at the service of your community and the values and principles that guide our European Union. Thank you very much.
Federica Mogherini, grazie. Thank you for addressing the students on this very special occasion for them. The Vice-Rector the Rector will remain with us, although she will be not visible on the screen. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite to the stage again the Vice-Rector of the College of Europe, Mrs. Ewa OŚNIECKA-TAMECKA. Please, Madam Vice-Rector.
Thank you very much. Dear Rector Mogherini, thank you for your kind words. Also looking forward to seeing you soon in Natolin. Mr. President, distinguished guests, professors, dear colleagues, and dear students. I am pleased and honored to open today the academic year of the David Sassoli promotion in the presence of the President of North Macedonia at the College of Europe in Natolin. Having President Pendarovsky is of great significance for us here in Natolin, not only because of his office, but because of the symbolism that he carries for us. On the one hand, he is a person whose discourse on prosperity, security, and peace is certain. On the other hand, his record of long years of service to his country bears testimony to his sincere belief in solidarity between nations and the clear vision of building bridges rather than walls. This vision is needed today more than ever. Hence, we rejoice your presence, Mr. President, while having David Sassoli as patron de promotion this year. David Sassoli was also a true believer in solidarity. At the closing of the Matera 2019 Capital of Culture program, he said, I quote, "It doesn't take courage to build walls. It takes courage to overcome them." End of quote. And this is indeed our credo here in Natolin, where we believe that Europe is a space of prosperity, built upon mutual understanding, sincere respect, and fruitful exchange with others, as it is in the differences with others that we discover ourselves and enrich our identity. This credo stems from our history. Natolin was born 30 years ago after the end of the Cold War and after the historical changes in this part of Europe, the fall of communism and the Soviet domination. And only then the process of the reintegration of the continent started. started. Based on this history and on this credo, Natolin places strong emphasis on the neighborhood, east and south, and on enlargement. Here, we do not only hope for a successful integration process for the Western Balkans, but we also do our best to support these perspectives. Indeed, we have been inviting students from the Western Balkans for many years. We continuously organize study visits there. We also support the development of the civil service. But today, Mr. President, we welcome you as an embodiment of North Macedonia's success story, a country with a multi-layered history, a country which was able to find an understanding with its neighbors. North Macedonia is already a NATO member and on its path to become an EU member. That is why we are keen today to listen to your reflections on the recent developments that affect EU's member states and their neighbors. To conclude, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express my wish and hope in and for our students. And once again, recall David Sassoli's words. We need to rebuild new connections between people, between communities, between institutions. So, dear students, fulfill Sassoli's dream. Create strong bridges. Open doors wide and spread the light, because you have a lot to offer and a lot to receive. Thank you. Mr. President, now the floor is yours.
Good morning. Dear Rector, I think she's still with us. Distinguished Vice-Rector of the College of Europe, respected students and professors, esteemed excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to address you at the start of the academic year here at the renowned College of Europe, one of three reasons, at least. The founding fathers of the European Union established the College of Europe as an elite academic institution where future European leaders will be educated, fully aware that the project of the United Europe depends on the people. Second, you gave me an honor to speak on the 30th anniversary of the foundation of the Natolin campus, which has been recognized for its valuable contribution to the integration of Central and Eastern Europe into the Union. The third reason is the fact that the patron of this year's promotion is the great European and friend of North Macedonia and the Balkans, the late President of the European Parliament, Mr. David Sassoli. He was one of the outspoken advocates, friends and supporters for the integration of the Western Balkans into the European Union. The very fact that his first visit outside of the EU borders in the official capacity as a Speaker of the Assembly was in North Macedonia speaks volumes about his beliefs and dedication. And another symbolism. He arrived in Skopje just a few days before the 30th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. Apart from being a living witness, David Sassoli, with a hammer in his hands, himself participated in the demolition of the wall that divided our continent for decades. Therefore, it should come as no surprise that Mr. Sassoli considered all walls that separate people being immoral. Esteemed attendees, not all curtains are made of iron, and not all walls are made of concrete. Immoral walls of separation can be both political and perceptual. One of these walls was erected for years in front of my country, North Macedonia, and in front of my region, the Western Balkan. On the Macedonian Independence Day in 1991, we already achieved a national consensus on our European future. Regrettably, the long integration road was full of blockades and delays. One member state pressed for the change of country's name, and another for changing the reading of our national history. In order to succeed and to progress, we made difficult compromises on very sensitive issues, while preserving what is the most valuable to us, our identity. In the entire history of the organization, we are the only country that changed its name for the sake of stability and prosperity of the present and future generations of Macedonians. In the last 200 years, especially after the Great Eastern Crisis in the 19th century and the Balkan Wars in the 20th, the Balkans became closely associated with blood and instability, where hatred and clashes are the rule, and mutual respect and peace an exception. The only driving force that can still turn that exception into a rule is the European Union. The desire for membership in the Union is still the lowest common denominator of all the countries in the region. Nationwide, social and political consensus are still hold around that issue. I say still because we don't know for how long. Dear friends, children born in 2005, when we became a candidate for membership, next year will reach their maturity. So far in their lives, they associate the EU only with the status quo in the waiting room of the Union. They got to know only promises from Brussels and demands that we need to make just one more compromise for the sake of our European dream. And many of them are convinced that the start of the negotiations was delayed due to the enlargement fatigue and requests by a member that has nothing in common with the European values they admire. The frozen European integrations in the past led to prolonged political crisis, deep polarization of the society, weak economic progress, and fragile institutions, citizens' distrust. So many young Macedonians, tired of waiting for the wall of blockades to disappear, have left the country without looking back. The fact that among the Macedonian citizens, for the first time since 1991, Euro-pessimism is on the rise shouldn't come as a big surprise. According to the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, 85% of the young people in North Macedonia believe that the country needs a leader with a strong hand, a narrative clearly espousing authoritarian tendencies. Unfortunately, the regional outlook is very similar throughout the Western Balkans. I do believe that one of the reasons for the region to be at the bottom of the European agenda is the perception among some in Western Europe still perceiving the Western Balkans as the region of perpetuating crisis. Exactly that happened during the massive 2015 and 16 migrant waves from the east, when the Western Balkans was identified as a key corridor to be managed. To be honest, big unknown is whether the ongoing Russian aggression in Ukraine will change that perception for the better. However, despite the motives of others, the following fact speaks about our real intentions and motives. As far as the European foreign and security policy is concerned, North Macedonia has a 100% compliance with the Union, which has not been the case even with some of the member states. Or let's analyze another significant decision made recently. Was it for the war in Ukraine that the Union granted candidate status to Bosnia and Herzegovina? Dear students, on my part, I was always a big believer in investing in crisis prevention rather than in the crisis management or damage control. Ladies and gentlemen, by accepting the European negotiating framework, we have opened the door for organizing the Intergovernmental Conference in July this year in what was a truly historic moment for us. due to the many obstacles we have to overcome along the way, the general perception among our citizens is that the whole process is predominantly about the good neighborly relations. However, this is only a component of the whole venture. European integrations, in my view, have a unique potential to be the catalyst for the profound transformation of all strata of our society. On this point, I would like to make it absolutely clear. Domestic politicians are fully entitled to perform the national reforms. Rule of law, independent judiciary, anti-corruption, and free press are certainly not the obligations of Brussels. For eventually failed national reconciliation, fight against corruption or political clientelism, only regional political elites are in charge and they should bear the responsibility. Nevertheless, this process has to be a two-way street in order to be effective. The European Union approach to the Western Balkan integration should be bold, not hesitant, timely rather than late, and comprehensive instead of partial. In the past years, we unfortunately experienced both sides of this European behavior. Now allow me briefly to comment on all of these 3 points I have made. First, in the crisis time, bold, visionary decisions are required more than ever. Despite emergency, crisis could be a moment of reflection as well. The years after the fall of the Berlin Wall were full of excitement because of the arrival of the freedom, but also filled with uncertainty due to the transformation ahead of Central and Eastern European societies, which in less than 2 decades should have achieved what Western Europe achieved for almost 2 centuries. The Polish model of transition under the leadership of Mazowiecki and Balcerowicz proved to be one of the most successful. Although painful in the short term, it was a long-term success. In that period of crisis, the European Union made a bold decision to expand to the countries of Central and Eastern Europe. At the same time, their integration drastically reduced the possibility of mutual blockades due to the bilateral disputes. Nowadays, it should be a good advice for the Union to replicate this approach to the Western Balkans as well. Second, because of the war in Ukraine, we are facing a serious economy and energy crisis. European solidarity towards the Western Balkans should not be delayed. The lessons learned during the pandemic with the late distribution of the vaccines should support the improving process during the winter season. The rationale behind the adopted new methodology 3 years ago was, and I suppose still is, to speed up the whole process and make it more efficient. For example, the latest entry into the EU, Croatia, completed the negotiations in 6 years. But Montenegro and Serbia has been negotiating for 10 and 9 years respectively. And as of today, they have completed no more than 1/10 of all chapters. Since we have recently opened negotiations, one thing is certain: if the process becomes just another Balkan never-ending story, the attractiveness of the EU will reach historic low. Third, comprehensive rather than partial integration is needed. The longer you are in the EU waiting room, the greater the temptation to look for alternatives to full membership. In this context, participation in the newly born European political community shouldn't be considered as compensation for membership, but only as a tool for facilitating greater European unity. Dear friends, ever since our independence, the Republic of North Macedonia has had good friends in the European Union. Among them, the Republic of Poland stands as one of the strongest and most persistent. As a sign of our deep gratitude for the support by the friendly Polish people, I have decorated the Polish president with the medal September the 8th, the highest honor of my country for foreign political leaders. Another witness to the fall of the Berlin Wall and the great friend of Poland, Professor Timothy Garton-Ash, deliberating on the role of Pope John Paul II during the fall of the Iron Curtain, said that without the Polish Pope, no solidarity revolution in Poland in 1980. Without solidarity, no dramatic change in Soviet policy towards Eastern Europe under Gorbachev. And without that change, in the Velvet Revolutions in 1989. The Pope John Paul II's vision, like David Sassoli's one, was a vision of European reunification. He spoke of the East and the West of Europe as the two lungs of the continent. I'm deeply convinced that without North Macedonia and the Western Balkans, Europe cannot breathe with full lungs. I thank you for your attention.
For your presence today at this Fête Académique. And also thank you to Mr. SOBCZAK, who performed today's Menuet from Paderewski. Paderewski, who is an important figure for Poland and indeed somehow part of Natolin. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please let me invite you to the stage, the Natolin students representative, please.
Dear Mr. President, dear Rector, dear Vice-Rector, distinguished faculty and guests, dear students of the David Sassoli promotion. I'm highly honored and feel privileged to have been given the opportunity to address everyone on this very special occasion on behalf of the student community of Natolin. A warm welcome to all esteemed guests present today. A very special welcome to our guest of honor, President Stevo PENDAROVSKI of North Macedonia. Thank you for being here and for addressing our students who are about to start another new chapter in their lives. President PENDAROVSKI not only carries out the fundamental duties enumerated in the Constitution regarding military, home policy, and foreign policy, but also many projects and initiatives on a domestic level. These initiatives include a wide range of topics, such as supporting young managers, empowering women and girls, the environment, inclusion and diversity, and inter-ethnic harmony. I would also like to express my gratitude to our esteemed Vice-Rector, who, along with the administration, made this splendid ceremony possible. And last but not the least, a heartfelt thanks to our distinguished professors, without whom we would be incomplete as students. David Sassoli, the patron of our promotion, is indeed an inspiring figure. As a citizen, devoted journalist, and later president of the European Parliament, he always stood for solidarity, democracy, and fought for the respect of human dignity. His values are also the values of our college. This year, the College of Europe in Natolin celebrates its 30-year anniversary. For 3 decades, our institution has been a place where young and bright people from the EU, its neighbors, and the world come together to not only study and live Europe, but open themselves to other cultures and perspectives. We are particularly aware of the importance of exchanging and learning from the neighborhood countries. Let us not forget that Europe was built on this exchange, enriched by achievements of neighboring civilizations, their science, and their cultures. We must also acknowledge that the first step towards racial justice in the EU is confronting Europe's colonial history. L'histoire, qui fait partie intégrante de notre programme ici à Natolin, nous enseigne ce qui doit être reproduit, mais aussi ce qui ne doit pas l'être. I truly believe our generation is the one that can build a new normal, a better normal. We are unafraid to confront unjust policies and unfair norms. From combating climate change to challenging the lack of gender equality, our generation has not only been involved in some of the biggest in-person protests in decades, we have been leading them. We will keep working on the values that the patron of our promotion fought for, and may we be motivated by the words of the late Polish president, Lech Wałęsa. The sole and basic source of our strength is the solidarity of people who seek to live in dignity, truth, and in harmony with their conscience. Let us all be united in diversity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we are going to listen to the counterpart in Bruges, so the Bruges students' representative. Please, I invite you to listen to the video message.
Dear President, dear Rector, dear Vice-Rector, distinguished guests, dear professors, dear students. It's a pleasure for me to be with all of you here today. Following on the great speech delivered yesterday by Jeremy during the opening ceremony for the Bruges campus, it's a huge honor for me to deliver this speech to the students of the Natolin campus. From the wonderful and often rainy city of Bruges, we wanted to wish you a very warm welcome for this new academic year. As students of the College of Europe, we have already won. Now, a new path awaits that might get tough at times, but the college community will be present to remind you that we are all on the same boat and that the experience is well worth the ride. This once-in-a-lifetime experience will be enlightening on a professional level, an academic level, but also on a personal level. Having the opportunity to study and to live at this prestigious European institution that has existed for longer than many of us can remember will allow you to pursue your most ambitious dreams. Both campuses have a beautiful multicultural and rich history which must be celebrated by reinforcing the bonds between them. Although we know that the experience at both campuses is a different one, yet we must remember that we are all members of the same community, we share the same spirit, we share the same values, and most of all, we share the same passion for Europe. This year, we honor the memory of our patron, David Sassoli, who fought for our shared values of freedom, dignity, and solidarity. As students and as future professionals, we must protect these values today and for the years to come. The future awaits. Until then, be yourself, dare to dream big, and most importantly, have fun. We would be pleased to welcome you in Bruges. Please enjoy your opening ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are slowly coming to the end of the ceremony. But before that, I would like to introduce once again to the Natolin Choir. This time is about the academia, so let us cheer our professor with Gaudeamus Igitur, the Natolin Choir. Thank you.
I think that we have to stand up. Gaudeamus Igitur.
No, the order no one is listening.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Natolin Choir. Mr. President, North Macedonian Delegation, Madam Vice-Rector, professors, guests, dear students, we have come to the end of our official part of the opening ceremony for the academic year 2022-2023. I'm sure you have many thoughts, many ideas, many reflections, and there will be certainly an occasion to discuss about them right after this part of the ceremony. First, it is my greatest privilege to thank Mr. President for the speech that he delivered today for us and for his presence today. Once again, thank you. And I would also like to thank you, the North Macedonian delegation, for its presence here. Dear students, let me invite you to the second part of our opening ceremony. There will be an occasion to have a small chat with Mr. President and the welcome drink that will be served in the Winter Garden. After that, there will be lunch with our College of Europe and Natolin staff. our staff will guide you to the winter garden. So I will ask you also to remain seated and quiet until the President has left the room. And after that, we will slowly moving towards the winter garden. Thank you very much for today. It was a pleasure. Goodbye.